All right, let's get right into it. You know that feeling when someone tells you what to do and every part of you just wants to do the opposite? Well, there's a fascinating reason for that. And if that sounds familiar, you're in the right place, because we're going to unpack the hidden psychology behind that resistance.
I mean, really think about it. Do you just hate being told what to do? Like, does your brain instantly flip a switch and want to do the exact opposite? Even when you know the advice is actually pretty solid? Yeah, if you're nodding along right now, you are definitely not alone. It's this super common thing. The advice could be perfect, it could be a game changer for you, but the second it's framed as a command, something inside just slams on the brakes and goes, nope, not gonna happen.
So what's going on here? A lot of people might just write you off as, difficult or stubborn, but the reality? It's way more interesting than that. This isn't just you being defiant for the sake of it. It's your brain, on a very deep level, trying to protect its freedom.
Okay, so let's dig into the actual science here. Because there's a name for this whole internal pushback thing. And trust me, once you understand it, it's a total game changer.
And that name is psychological reactance. It's a fantastic term because it perfectly captures what's going on. This isn't a deliberate, thought-out choice you're making. It's a reflex, like pulling your hand away from a hot stove. Your brain senses a threat to your freedom, and boom, it pushes back to get that sense of control back.
Yeah, think of it like an internal alarm system, a defense mechanism. The moment someone says, you have to do this, that alarm goes off. A little switch gets flipped and your brain goes, oh really? Well, now I really don't want to. It's all because it senses that control is coming from the outside, and its primary job is to protect your autonomy.
So, who feels this the most? Is it everyone? Well, it turns out that people who experience this really strongly tend to share some specific traits. They all point to a fiercely independent mind.
First up, and this is really the bedrock for everything else we're going to talk about, it's a powerfully high need for autonomy. Look, we all want to feel like we're in the driver's seat of our own lives, right? But for some people, that need is turned way, way up. It's not just a preference, it's a fundamental drive. So for them, an order isn't just a helpful suggestion, it feels like a direct attack on their independence.
And this is so important to get. The resistance? It's almost never about the task itself. You could totally agree that taking out the trash is a good idea. But the pushback, that no feeling, is about protecting your right to be the one who decides. It's about maintaining that control, which is what makes us feel safe and centered.
Okay, trait number 2. This is all about how their brain processes information.
These are deeply independent thinkers. They don't just take orders at face value. No way. When they hear a command, their brain immediately kicks into analysis mode. They need to understand the why. They're going to poke at the logic, ask questions, and only after they've processed it all and formed their own conclusion will they get on board.
All right, number 3. This one's huge, and it's all about where you think success comes from. It's tied to something called an internal locus of control. Now, that sounds academic, but it's simple. It just means you believe that your choices and your actions are what create your success. It's not luck, it's not other people, it's you. So following someone else's script to get a win, that feels hollow. The victory only feels real and earned when you've chosen the path yourself.
And that leads us to our final trait. And honestly, this one is kind of like a superpower, even if it causes some friction. People with high reactance are often hypersensitive to control and power dynamics. They have this incredibly fine-tuned radar for when someone is trying to manipulate them or dominate a situation. It's often a skill they develop to protect themselves. And because of that radar, even a tiny, innocent command can feel like this huge weight, this massive pressure, and their resistance kicks in to defend their personal space.
Okay, so we've gone through the science and the traits. Now I want to pull it all together and totally reframe how we look at this. Whether this is you we're talking about or someone in your life, let's shift our perspective.
Seriously, if any of this has been hitting home for you, I really want you to hear this next part. You are not broken. You are not difficult. What you have is a highly developed, self-directed mind. That's not a flaw to be fixed. It's a feature. It's a core part of who you are.
So the big takeaway here is simple. Your mind is fundamentally wired to value freedom and autonomy more than almost anything else. And just understanding that, really getting it, is the first, most powerful step you can take toward working with your nature instead of constantly fighting against it. So, I'll leave you with a question to chew on. Now that you know why your brain does this, now that you see it's a drive for freedom, how are you going to take that natural resistance and turn it into your absolute greatest strength?